Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Refuse to Lose podcast. This episode features one of the greats of rugby league, Brad Freddy Fittler. Now, Freddie is a Panthers and Roosters Premiership legend, a former captain of New South Wales and Australia, and these days he also has a little side job as well, coaching the Blues State of Origin team, who have won the past 2 series against Queensland. And that's something he has achieved by imprinting his own personality on the team through a very unique coaching style. Now, throughout this podcast, Freddie tells me how that personality developed from party boy Panther in his youth to a philosophical thinker who lives his life driven by a mantra of giving to others now. We speak about the passing of his best mate, Ben Alexander, and how that shaped his life, as well as his work with the homeless. But anyone who knows Freddie will tell you that he is one of the most random and out there colourful characters you will ever meet. And that is on full display in this podcast as we talk everything from his pet llamas to his random thoughts about magicians, his war on deodorant, and his pre-game ritual of throwing up ice cream, plus heaps more. So I really hope you enjoy my chat with the one and only Brad Fittler. Brad Fittler, welcome to the Refuse to Lose podcast, mate.
Thank you. Good to be here, Jake. Duke.
We spent a lot of time talking a lot of shit on Sunday mornings anyway, so I thought we may as well do a podcast about it.
Yep, makes sense.
Just wanted to start, mate, because I only learnt this week, and I didn't know, and I think a lot of our younger probably listeners didn't know. The nickname Freddy, Where did it come from? First
time made State of Origin, walked into the room, and Jack Gibson was the coach. I sometimes confuse me whether it was Origin or whether it was my first rep game, maybe the City Country. But anyway, and he said, "What's your name? Young boy?" I think he said young boy, and I said Brad. He said, "Righto, Fred, sit down." And Paul Langmack was close by. I remember Paul Langmack telling one of the journalists, and it was in the paper the next day. And that was it. Freddie ever since.
You didn't correct him?
Nah.
It's Jack Gibson.
It's Jack Gibson. He's a very, had a lot of charisma, Jack. Big man, and I just thought, right, I'm Fred.
That's pretty good. I know. It's awkward to correct people's names. Like I don't.
Oh, it's the least of my worries. He just picked me to play in a rep game, so I thought he can call me what he wants.
Stuck with it for life.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into a little bit of your life later on, but I want to start with a couple of random questions because I know you're a random guy.
Yeah.
You like some random things. So off the top of your head, first one. Would you rather be able to read people's minds or see and hear through walls?
Reading people's minds would be outstanding. That'd be... I don't know if there'd be anything better, actually, than being able to read people's minds. That would... Because it's funny, there's a book and he talks about, we look at homeless people and people that walk along the road ranting, just basically talking crazily, but when you think about it, when we're in any situation, our minds are just racing and thinking and talking, but we just don't voice it. So we're just as crazy as them.
That's a good point.
Well, actually, they're in more control because at least they're letting it out. We're just holding it in.
You wouldn't be scared of what people think?
Yes. Ooh. No, you asked the question, though, am I the person that can read minds, not other people? It'd be horrifying if things go through my head and I just think, what the hell, Like I've got to the age and I've done enough self-observing and read enough sort of books and stuff like that to realise, the crazy thoughts and, you just got to let them go sometimes and they're quite amusing.
Have you got an example of one that's come across your head lately?
Well, I was just looking at that shear and I was thinking if I could use that if I was a magician. But I'm not a magician. I don't know any magic tricks. So
there's a big television kind of light thing next to us and you just...
I just thought that looks like something I was just thinking if I was a magician I could picture myself in those clothes. And I thought, well, I'm not a magician. I don't know any magic tricks. So there's a crazy thought.
Okay, that's a perfect example, I think, of how your mind operates. All right, you mentioned reading books before. If you started to read a book and you discovered
as you read, you go, oh, this is my life. Would you, if you got to the point where you are now in life, would you keep reading ahead knowing that you can't change what happens?
It was funny. I was reading Astrologer. Is it this?
Astrologer,
yeah. So I used to read the stars and all that sort of thing. Never really believed them, but I always thought sometimes what they did they just gave me triggers to maybe behave a little bit differently that day. Sometimes it gave you clues to, if you're nicer or if you listen more. I think any time I can be told to listen more, or it's always a really good tip. So no, I don't think I would read more. I think the real key is about living in the moment, and my greatest advice about living in the moment that I've heard and that I give is just try to listen more. So no, I wouldn't go forward.
Wouldn't go forward.
No, I
I
wouldn't
don't
go
think I would
forward
either. Too scary.
I'm not scared, but you miss the surprise.
Yeah.
I'd hate to miss the surprise. I don't understand how people, why they would see the birth of their child, unless it's for health reasons. That surprise is the best, like it's pop. You got a vagina or a doodle. You're just sort of sitting there, and that's what you're sweating because everything else is the same. And I remember when my young bloke come out and, I could see his penis and just went, well, there you go, girl, boy. I'll snip 2 days later. It was perfect. But, that surprise that's the greatest surprise. So for all the, for everything in the world, that is the best surprise when you're having a child. And it's just, it doesn't matter in the future whether it's a girl or boy, but at the moment it's an incredible, exhilarating moment that you'd never want to sort of know.
So you wouldn't want to know. And finally, last one, if you could have any pet in the world and it was tamed, what would it be?
Dolphin.
Dolphin?
I'd love to be a dolphin. I'd love to hang with dolphins.
Hang with dolphins?
Yeah, they look like they're having fun non-stop.
They're smart too.
Well, they're smart because they have fun. Fun's good, and they don't seem to have the downside. They're just having fun all the time, what a life.
They have sex for pleasure too.
They're the only other animal, I think, that have sex for pleasure.
You like a quirky animal, a pet. You had llamas.
I've got llamas.
Got a llama?
Yeah. I'm looking for another one. The female passed away. I'm not big on looking after animals from a point of view of the dredging and all that. I haven't sort of gone to that level. I just assumed that they could handle Terry Hills. But
why llamas?
Well, I read that a couple of reasons is as it gets dry and animals start pulling out grass. So there's a process. They'll chew across the top and then they start pulling it out once they get desperate to get the nutrients out of, the roots and stuff. While llamas can't do that. They just chew across the top. So they act as a lawnmower.
They're a lawnmower.
Yeah. And you can tame them. I watched a show on a lady in Goulburn who tamed a llama, and although they're a really pleasant animal actually, and they're really good looking. They've got this sort of little bit of eastern suburbs arrogance about them, I think they're better than other animals.
They stand up and look at people.
Yeah, that's exactly. And our one just sort of, you go to touch it or go near it, and it sort of allows you to feed it, but if you want to touch it, it just pulls its head back and says, no, I don't think so.
Is that Barack and Michelle, or were they?
Yeah, Barack's the bloke. Michelle
Barack
is gone.
Is gone.
And we had a little baby. It was the cutest looking animal. And whether it's snakes or the dredging or ticks, there's a lot. There's a host of things that kill animals where I live. So I got to find another woman.
Another
for Barack.
For Barack.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the hunt.
On the hunt for a llama. I don't know where you even find llamas.
I've got it sorted. I just got to bring it down from Parks.
So you got a llama guy?
Yeah, the bloke. His name is Lionel, and Virginia is his wife. She's an Indigenous lady. And she was the first lady to fly a solo engine aeroplane from England to Australia.
You're kidding.
No, it took her forever because she had to stop and had to get the plane fixed and stopped all the way along. And she was the first lady. And they started a zoo up in Yeovil near Wellington. And it started with people just going up to spool rabbit fur. And they end up having like a B-grade zoo where they had a host of animals. They just got a bit old. They ran it themselves. They used to have sort of morning tea and high tea for people, and they got too old, so they now moved out to Parks, and I get my llamas from him.
That is the kind of really random answer I was looking for.
Yeah, that's it.
That is amazing. All right, well, we're going to get through all the things that you do with your community work and stuff, but I think the best way to understand a person is to talk to them about them when they were younger and how different they are now. So tell me about 18-year-old Brad
18.
Fittler.
He was just indulging, taking risks and loving life, playing football. It was a really great time, to be playing football at Penrith. We had a really good team. And, I just didn't think much. I'd gotten rid of a lot of the stuff I was doing as a teenager. I was a bit of a dickhead as a teenager, doing things that I'm not that proud of really at the moment, but but it's just those teen things, taking risks. And the 18-year-old loved his footy, loved his mates, and we had such a good time. It is off the scale how much good times we had. Just spent our life at Time Zone, watching movies, playing footy, and having a drink on Sundays, and then just doing that again every day of the week for years. It was awesome.
You were playing first grade at that point as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I started in school in the year before, and it was a good time to be a footballer in Penrith. Of course, everyone loved the footy team, and it was a good team, and ended up doing some really good things. And it was incredible life, incredible, so good.
Bit of a party boy at that point, because there's a culture of footy and you're so young. Did you kind of get dragged into that a little bit?
I didn't have to be dragged. I started drinking pretty young, and I love drink. So I think I was sort of anxious to a degree in some scenarios. Never in a footy scenario did I feel anxious, but if I was had to go to a function, I was wearing suits, so I'd get pretty anxious in those sort of environments. So and most really looked more confident than I was. So alcohol, I was good fun on alcohol. I just could let loose really well. So I had some incredible nights. Some nights where I drank too much and found myself in sort of some strange situations, but never really, never been in me to hurt someone, or so I never really felt like I was a danger to other people. I was always maybe a danger to myself, but we had a lot of incredible times.
Was this when were you living with Gus at this point? Was that?
I lived with Gus for a couple of months around that age, 18, 19. So I moved out of home at 18 and moved in with Gus mostly for a couple of months during 19. Then my mum ended up moving back in, and and then when I left Penrith, I moved away. Mum went down the coast, so that was all. Yeah, it was all pretty good. I sort of had a fair bit of control over what I was doing, but it was hard sort of once you start putting on weight. That was tough, and that was the part, trying to be an athlete, trying to have fun and then being fit, putting it all together, and that's why sometimes. And Gus was just there at the right time for me. He had that. He sort of had a really good awareness of what people needed, and he knew I needed to slap across the head. Yeah,
I was going to ask you about that, because that's the story where you came back from the Kangaroo tour and you're probably 10 kilos overweight. Gus he gave it to you, didn't he?
Yeah, just gotten lazy. Yeah, and he was just right there at the right time and had the had the awareness to just as I need to slap, and knew what sort of person I was, and he had a big impact on my life, just purely mostly because of that period there, coming back from when I was 18.
Was that the biggest? Do you remember the spray? Do you remember him?
Yeah, just sitting in a room across a desk and just sort of lean into, talking about what had happened the year before, because he'd got to a grand final. I got picked in the Australian team. I was only 18, and just about how you could waste it, and the actions that make you sort of come across as though you're a big head, and you think you're bigger than the team or bigger than you are, and it went on for a while. So it was a good one. There was tears in the eyes at the end of it, and and it was changed straight away. I was always, if anything, I sort of I felt like there was one thing I could do is change. There was moments in my career where like that one, just straight away I had to make some changes. And throughout my career, I had to make changes, and most of the time I did it.
Was he one of the main father figures in your life? Did you feel like growing up?
Yeah, I had. I think the fact is, the football helped because always had good associations with the coaches, and being a young kid coming through, which was sort of it was a good time of life. If you're playing in a young footy team and your team was winning and everyone seemed to enjoy each other's company, it doesn't get any better than that. So always had good associations with teammates and coaches. But Gus at that time definitely was a father figure, and just stepped in when no one else was there to step in.
What about your mum? The influence she had on you? 'Cause she raised you as a single mum. Like, how was she dealing with you? And obviously, you mentioned before when you were a little bit wild as a teenager and kind of probably difficult to deal with at times.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever difficult. I mostly told some white lies, and I was up to mischief and stuff like that. I don't think I was never rude, or I was never that sort of person. So I don't know how much grief other than worry I did for my mum. And but it's only when you look back when you're a parent and you realise the sacrifices. There was times there where we used to do nippers, and we lived in Liverpool, and we our cars were shit. We were lucky to have a car most times, but we had these cheap cars that always just kept breaking down, and we'd go from Liverpool to Cronulla every Sunday at sort of 5:36 in the morning. And I know what it's like, me and Marie taking our kids to nippers now when you live across the road from a beach. It's torture. It's just like, you got all these adults there at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning who, it's great for kids, but it's just parking and, what parents put up with in those days. And then we'd always be going back along Heathcote Road and be breaking down in the middle of Warrenora River or somewhere, and just images of me and my brother having rock fights on the side of the road at 8:30 in the morning at the back of Warrenora. Was like insane. But we lived in a flat, so the funny thing was, like, the sense of community back then was incredible. My mum used to work at night, so she'd leave our door open, and the flat was open to anyone, so our door would be open, and our next door, they'd come in, and if there was any noise, they were two old ladies, and they just come in and check on us, and 3 in the morning. Like, it's just crazy the sort of trust you had in your neighbours back then. And we grew up in like Green Valley, which is pretty what would you call it? Just it was all welfare.
Yeah.
So it wasn't one of those lovely areas. It was but the sense of community was unbelievable, and that's the thing that everyone's missing now.
If you go through that childhood after that, so when did Brad Fittler start to transform into the person he is now, which is, I think, someone who thinks a lot more about others and how he's kind of placed in the world and the difference he can make?
Just as you get older, you start to sort of realise you got to start paying back, and once you start realising how lucky you are, and I think a good mate of mine was in year 2002, and a good mate of mine, Rogan, said, "Oh, mate, we haven't done much for other people, we just sort of in general conversation, and we just, whether it was about footy," and we said, yeah, well, right. So we started working with Father Chris Riley and doing the vans and stuff. And, there was always, I was always felt like I was generous with my time and all that, but never really committed to anything. So, we started doing that and just going down on Thursday nights, and just, there was a feeding van and stuff like that, and just like whether it was street kids or homeless people, and they just come and have a feed and have a chat with them, and that turned everything around. That changed everything, just because of, not only the benefit you could do to other people and having a chat with them, and then also the feeling it gave you. And you could just realise, as I was doing that, you realise, what, if you're not doing that, it's the wrong thing. You're just not giving yourself a chance to, get the full feelings of, giving and accepting and all that sort of stuff. So once, so it was mostly 2002 where I sort of realised that it just had to be part of my life to give me balance. And, so that would mostly have been the moment.
What did you see when you went out there? Like
On the street?
Yeah. What was?
Oh, just tough. There was a time when I was a young kid who was my next door neighbour at Warrington when I lived at Warrington when I was a teenager. He was living on the street, and he came up to me and he was a bit embarrassed, but just, so you realise that made me realise, you know what, you don't know who's doing it tough because they seem like a normal family when I look back. What was the question again?
Yeah, what did you see out there when you were out?
Yeah, and then, you're sort of dealing with young blokes. The van used to be across from the wall where the blokes would stand on the wall and they'd get picked up and they'd drive off with, that whole scenario. So right there, so you'd see him sit there talking to people and, and then all of a sudden they walk across here and see him get in the car with another bloke and go around the corner. It's like, right. And then just, once you get the conversations and, not all of them are junkies and come from, tough lives. A lot of them might have fallen into gambling or just had a divorce or, there were lawyers down there. There are all types of people. And but you just realise, you need to help. You just need to help. There's it's so easy to fall, on tough times. It's very easy. Few bad decisions or, like a failed marriage or, like a loss of a job. It's just, we don't help much these days. We don't help as much as we should.
Is that what obviously kick-started the Hogs for Homeless and the ride you do and the money you raise for that?
Yeah, well, what happened was Laurie Daly was the coach, got announced the coach. So I said to Loz, mate, I'll go and look after the community. I'll go and start these rides. And the big thing was in those days, a lot of New South Wales kids went for Queensland because they were winning and Billy Slater and, some fantastic sort of players were playing for them. So you can understand the appeal. And I just sort of drove around and asked questions on who they thought were our best players. And, we gave every kid a footy. And the idea was, there's a footy to go and kick with, go and check out what's going on in New South Wales. We had heaps of competitions sort of run throughout it, so we got an idea of how it was run and who was running the competitions. And it was sort of a holistic look at what's going on in footy in the bush, but it was always based around giving. We've got this thing, it's called, it's my LOL, and people, what's LOL stand for?
Laugh out loud.
Laugh out loud. So mine is my laws of luck. So my first is whenever you set out for any sort of challenge to do anything, do something for someone else. My second one is you got to have a go. If you want to win the lotto, you got to buy a ticket. So you got to have a crack. What's the third one? The third one is I've had a mind blank, and the last one is there's no such thing as luck.
Okay.
So it's just like a little sort of motto I live by. So every time we set out a challenge, like, whether it's Origin, we always start with, well, how can we do something for someone else? And we set about putting something into our camp where we can do something for someone else. And then we talk about having a go and putting your pride away and putting it all on the line. And, you can't rely on luck, you can't rely on what you've done or things just happening. You've got to really push it.
And, the players seem to have responded to that, didn't they? Like you've seen, these guys are big stars and they could easily probably forget those kind of things, but they seem to have taken to that and maybe it's had the effect that you wanted. Obviously, you won 2 in a row.
Yeah, well, a lot of things go into that. I just don't like to test the fact that you don't give back. I think the day you stop giving back, then you'll lose your luck. Whatever luck you do get, whatever luck comes your way will come less. So, I definitely reckon there's an energy floating around, and the more you give back, then the more things fall into place for you. So that just works without. That's just the mathematics of the dynamics, I think, of the world. The better your person you are, the more good things happen to you normally.
Yeah, it's a good mantra to live by. And so you do the Hogs for Homeless, but you're out on the road recently as well, going around to schools talking about road safety, and obviously that's a very a topic close to your heart because of what happened with your dear friend Ben Alexander.
Yeah.
To tell me about how you got involved with that and why you do what you do.
Well, Greg Alexander's never really spoken much. He's a pretty private person, Brandy, and we had a relationship with New South Wales Roads, and it was tossed up that we go through the process of what happened with Ben, and the mindset we used to have as kids, especially like me as a kid driving, we used to drink drive all the time, and like some of just sometimes treat the road like an amusement park was ridiculous. So trying to pass on the message just about not taking risks on the road, and it's so hard, like kids are so many distractions, phones and speed, and cars are so quick these days, and the big one is country roads. Like the level of accidents out in the country roads compared to the city is amazing. So we just try to get out there, and Brandy's such a great deliverer. Like, and the story of us growing up in Penrith, and Ben was my best mate and his brother, and just talking about, he was like a pretty careful person, Ben. Out of a lot of us, he was the least. He took less risks than a lot of other young people out there at the time, and it was just unfortunate that his timing wasn't good, and just the impact it had on the community. And when you look back, it was an amazing what it did to the community, and how things broke down and fell apart pretty quickly.
For yourself, as like personally, how much did? Because you were how old?
I was 20. It was in 1992, so I was 20 years old. The thing I did, I lent on football. The thing that I find is, just any time I'm around football, it's easy. There's no stress or anxiety. I just sort of played footy. And I think at the time Ben died, I was playing for Australia. I was in the Australian camp, and that's when I got told that night. We were out, and I got told that night. So that was an unbelievable experience. That whole couple of days, and then going out to Penrith the next day. And but yeah, football helped me once again.
Did the whole thing kind of make you a bit more philosophical, like, or the way you look at life? Because you seem like now you're a person that thinks about different things, and kind of being, I know you're big into your meditation, you're big into all these things, and kind of being within yourself. Did that kind of kick that off, or did that come later? No,
it come later when I coached. I knew as a coach I'd just go mental if I didn't do something, so I just started a few different things. But yeah, I try to keep much as possible. I don't know, well, what it did do, it stopped me drink driving, and it got me smarter on the road. So, and it did to all of us. If it wasn't Ben, it was going to be someone. Would have been me or someone else or a couple of us, or would have been a worse accident, because, like I said, we just, there wasn't much respect for the roads and safety of other people and ourselves. So,
but on the meditation and stuff, we'll go on to that. Like, what do you do? What's your kind of process every day? You're big on, I know you do cold water therapy as well and stuff like that.
It's just things I picked up. So I started the cold water when I was coaching. So what I did was, the local council, I just built a big house. It was sort of a bit hypocritical at the time, but the local council were doing a program about energy. So I said they need an ambassador. So I was the coach of the Roosters, so I said they asked me if I do, and I did. And so I thought, well, how can I make a sacrifice, something to make it a little bit more real, that's what I stopped. I don't turn lights on at all, and you've known that in the change rooms.
I'd turn the lights on.
So I turn all my lights off, never have lights on, and I thought, well, what I'll do, I won't have warm showers. So I had cold showers for 2 years. And this is before anyone sort of spoke about it, but it made me feel better, and I realised, and then it was also the fact is when you get in at night, you got to be aware. Like, you can't just get into a cold shower. Like, you jump straight out most of the time. If anyone was expecting to get into a shower and it was freezing cold, they'd normally jump straight out. So you just got to. It made me snap into it. So I thought the process was, if I had young children at the time, have a cold shower, get rid of all the coaching stuff and go down and hang around with the kids. And it was sort of a way of clearing my mind. So, and it worked. I loved it. So I haven't stopped. So I've been doing it just for years and years. Now they're out now and they talk about the benefits of cold water and therapy and all that sort of stuff. And I started meditating at the time too. Meditation's funny because, I think there's 1,000 different ways you can do it. And there's so much you can do. And I think people expect to get better, but I think what happens is, as a byproduct, you just become more relaxed. And it just takes over time, over time it happens. While, most people actually, if you lie in the sun, you get a suntan. If you keep doing more meditation, not much really changes. You don't really notice the change, but I reckon there would be a change for people who look at you and, I just find you just get a little bit more calmer. Anyway, but it's good. It's good to take time out. It saves you looking at your phone or,
I know you
having crazy thoughts.
I know you hate the social media and all that.
I think it's just vomit. I think it's putrid. Well, you got a few people sitting at the top making billions of dollars out of people just losing their shit, I just don't get it. It seems like the cream at the top have just found another way to make more benefit out of everyone else, and it's all based on envy. And there's a few good things about it, like there's, some people can make a good living out of it and a really good, honest living. And, some arty people and some creative people, it's a way that they can get their story out. So, there are some really good sides to social media. But, I think it's vomit, the majority of it.
What about the deodorant? I was amazed by this.
Actually, it was the same time as the Watsy. It was the whole time around becoming the ambassador for the environment. Yeah. And just, the basics of just spraying deodorant. It's just ridiculous that it's legal. Why wouldn't just everyone have roll-on? I can understand roll-on. I just decided not to use it at all because there was another article I read where I watched a scientist do a great experiment where talking about our sense of smell. And what he did, he had 6 ladies wear a T-shirt to bed for a month, and then what he did, he smelt the T-shirts and put them in an order of what he liked to what the one he didn't like. And what happened was the smell that he didn't like, when they did testing, he was genetically closer. So it tells us that in a time we would have used smell as a way to find a partner. And if you like their smell, would have meant that their genetics were further away than yours. That mean you'd have a stronger offspring. So then I just thought, what? I hate deodorant. I hate people who spray deodorant because it's just, I find it ridiculous that they just can't use roll-on. And spray has an effect on the climate. It has an effect, like the toxins and all that sort of bullshit in it. And then I thought, what? And that other part of the smell thing, I thought, I don't mind smell. It doesn't bother me. I don't want to smell like a flower. Yeah. I want to smell, I don't want to smell like someone else either. Yeah. I want to smell like me. Sometimes it's not good for other people.
I never had any complaints.
I've had a couple every now and then, like a full day of doing the show we're about to do now, a bit of woof comes on. So every now and then I'll whack on if I feel like I'm putting people off.
That blew me away when I found that out. And you mentioned we have to do the Sunday Footy show soon, so I thought we'll finish on some coaching stuff and some footy stuff. But you talked about before coaching the Roosters, and I know you've talked about that before, how difficult and stressful that was for you back in that time coaching week to week in the NRL. Do you remember that? Do you remember the mouth ulcers or the
Yeah, mouth ulcers. They were a killer. That was something I hadn't had before. I got skin problems and all sorts of things going on. But the mouth ulcers were a tricky one because obviously no one can see them, which is good. If you're going to have something come on, then a mouth ulcer is not a bad thing because they can't see. It's better than a massive cold sore. But they're quite painful, mouth ulcers.
And that was just from the stress.
I'd say so, yeah, absolutely. Just the way my body reacting to the different stresses, but I feel like I'm much more capable now of sort of, dealing with it. Much less worried about what people think or what they say. And, also put things around that where I don't read papers or I don't try not to read anything about me or what people say because at the end of the day I don't really care unless they're willing to come to me and talk to me about it. Then they're mostly not close enough to. The good saying is, if you wouldn't get advice off them, then don't listen to their criticism.
So that's what it was back then. That stressed you out most was the talk, the constant
it's just overwhelming. No, not overwhelming. Or it got overwhelming, but no, it's just constant chatter in your head. It's totally consuming, and I didn't really have many avenues how to get away from that. But I loved it. I love the coaching. The coaching's great. And coaching a footy team, is really challenging. But you feel part of a club and a family and a team, and and you're sort of at the top. You've got to sort of try to direct that. So you can't force it on people. So it's a great challenge. Coaching, it's awesome.
How's coaching New South Wales different? Like,
Well, other people do that job really. We find our own purpose now when we come in, and but you really got to rely on it. I suppose the key is looking out for the people that are invested in their team and club, and love being part of a family and want to fight hard for each other, and that's our key really, to find those players. So my first job is to make sure I find staff that have got those qualities.
do you get nervous? Do you get nervous coaching? Did you get nervous as a player as well?
I didn't get as nervous as a player. You get more nervous coaching. You can't do anything about it once the game starts. There's not much you can do. So, but as a player, I loved it. And towards the end as a player, I just loved it. Really enjoyed the moments of those moments of nervousness. I love you loved them, and the moment you retire, they're the things you can never get back. So there's nothing in life really that can equal those feelings in rugby league. About to run on to possibly it's to get hurt or to do things great, and to have those moments with your teammates where it all works together, and then have those moments where it falls apart, and all the nerves that run with it, and the joys and the other side of defeat and winning. There's not much that can equate to that in life afterwards. So I learned to love them at the end.
The other thing you've told me about before, you used to do before games the night before, you'd scoff a shitload of ice cream.
Yeah, sometimes I'd have to come back up if I had too much. People call it bulimia. I'm not sure if it was just the fact that I made a pig of myself, and emotionally not preparation 101, but that was life.
When I do it, I get so angry at myself. I have to go running at like midnight or something.
Yeah.
So that's my
sugar. You work out sugars, like your brain just loves it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Loves it. So I've grown out of that.
We'll finish with 3 random questions. Quick fire. Most famous person you've ever met?
Superman.
So, Christopher.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
He came out. He's Peter Cusack, one of my teammates. His sister was Christopher Reeves' nanny.
Okay.
So he came out when he was in the wheelchair, and he was talking about stem cell and all that. So, not everyone gets to meet Superman.
Yeah, well, that is a good one. That's a random one too. Superstitions you had before you played, or a teammate, or anything you remember being someone had to do something really weird?
No, there's some people that had some unique ways to warm up, rubbing Denker in their head, and there's a lot of vomiting before games and a lot of sort of just crazy stuff. But I don't think so. I had these blue tracksuit pants I wore I reckon for about 10 years. About 9 years, I think, of the Roosters. I love them, and I don't think there was ever a game I never had them on before a game. But I don't think so.
They would have smelled nice.
They wouldn't have smelled good. They had holes and patched holes, and then other holes, and they were very thin. Yeah. They didn't keep me warm.
The last one. Over all your time coaching, playing, biggest pest, biggest punish to deal with?
You don't know. There's so many characters. There's so many. Brian Fletcher and Natty Wood together were a great team. They were incredible. Sports are good, and we come through an era where it was pretty serious, but there was a lot of. It was pretty jovial as well. It was a lot of fun. We had so much fun, and they were constantly pushing the barriers of fun as well. So, what you didn't think were fun, they did things where things were done where people just look back, and if you did them now, people just think you're crazy. Our tolerance is pretty hopeless. So, but they were constantly good value to have around.
Yeah, and Brian Fletcher is one of the great characters.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
I think that's a good place to leave it, Freddie.
All right.
We've got a show to do, but
what's
thanks
the time?
for coming on. Well, we got half an hour. We're all right. Thank you for coming on.
I got to get makeup done, mate.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, guys. We've got plenty more episodes coming your way very soon. Don't forget to follow the Refuse to Lose podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We look forward to talking to you again soon.